just a couple seconds. All right, Brenda, do you have everything you need? Go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I have everything I need to get started. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, greetings, everyone. Welcome to tonight's session. My name is Drew, and I'm the manager of Birth to 5 programming here at DC Public Schools. I'm so thrilled to be here with you this evening for a session on nurturing emotional growth in your child, presented by Healthy Futures. So before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items that I want to go over with the group. So we are using Zoom to host tonight's session. So throughout the session, we invite you to enter your questions and comments into the chat box. You're also welcome to unmute and engage and ask questions in person if you feel comfortable. We always love hearing your voices. This session will be recorded and posted on the DCPS YouTube page. So please double check your camera settings if you would not like to be on camera this evening. I also want to note that we are offering simultaneous interpretation in Spanish. So I'm going to pause for just a moment to let anybody who would like to access those interpretation services do so. And you can find the instructions on the screen. Give everyone just a minute. And if you need any support with interpretation during the session, please enter into the chat and we will connect you. All right, and next are community agreements. So we like to start off all of our Ready for Pre-K sessions with some general community agreements for our time together. We are committed to making sure that this is a forum where everyone feels safe and welcome and respected. So we ask tonight that while you are here, that you be kind, be patient, and be open. And with that, I would like to introduce you to tonight's facilitator. So Brenda Ortiz is joining us from Healthy Futures, which is a program through DBH. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I will hand it over to you to share a little bit about yourself and about tonight's presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Brenda Ortiz. I am a clinical social worker. As Drew mentioned, I am with the Department of Behavioral Health's Healthy Futures program, and my official title is Early Childhood Clinical Specialist, but I like to joke and say I get paid to play because that's a lot of what we do when we're interacting with our kiddos in their classroom. We are working on social emotional skills through play and through engagement and relationship building. So that's a little bit about me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you all so much for being here. I see some people are joining us that are outside of DC, so welcome. We hope that the information that you receive tonight is useful. And I think I am able to now start sharing my screen, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. I see some familiar names and faces there. Definitely feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We're so happy you are here.
I will say that my computer is a little slow, so bear with me. All right, so today's topic is nurturing emotional growth in our children, and I would like for us to begin our session today by doing a breathing exercise that we actually do with our kiddos in the classroom. We're gonna use some visuals. And so what I'd like for us to do at this moment is imagine our favorite flower. If you can picture the color, if you can picture the scent, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna smell our flower. Take a deep breath and smell our flower. And then we imagine our favorite slice of cake. We're blowing a candle out. We're smelling our flower. And we're blowing out our candle. Smelling our flower one more time. And blowing out our candle. All right. I hope this helped us get a little bit more centered. and ready for our hour together. And again, this is a little strategy that we use with our kiddos when we're trying to help them calm their bodies. They're overexcited. So that's something that we do. All right. So today we will define social and emotional development. We will discuss why social emotional development is important, explore some milestones for our kiddos ages 0 to 5, and discuss ways to promote social emotional development in our children and also in ourselves. All right, so what is social emotional development? It's our developing capacity to form close and secure relationships, experience, regulate our emotions, and express them in socially and culturally appropriate ways, right? What is appropriate for some cultures may not be appropriate for others, and so we need to be mindful of that. Exploring the environment and learning, all in the context of family, community, and again, culture. That's an important piece. So what does social emotional development include, or healthy social emotional development include? It includes our ability to develop friendship skills, mood regulation, body control, body awareness, self-regulation, emotional expression, conflict resolution, and problem solving. This comes to us when we're closer to 3.5 to 4 years old, not younger. Persistence and motivation, impulse control, self-esteem, confidence, empathy, and a few other. Oh, I think I did this slide twice. I wanted to emphasize. All right. There we go. So what are some of the outcomes for positive social emotional development? Again, our ability to form and sustain positive relationships with our peers and our caregivers, right? Experience and manage and express emotions in positive ways and explore and engage with the world from a place of safety, right? And we know that when we have positive relationships that encourage that, we're more able to explore. All right, so what does the research tell us about healthy or about social emotional development? It tells us that the relationship between children, their families, and other adults in early childhood is critical to healthy social emotional development. Trusting relationships are what make children feel secure. And also we know that all learning stems from relationship building, right? All children have the ability to experience emotions, but how they experience and learn to manage it depends largely on the relationships with primary caregivers and other important adults in our lives, right? So the way we see our parents reacting, our teachers reacting to the world and life around them is how we will learn to we will learn to navigate the world as well. A strong social and emotional foundation helps us boost our learning, our academic performance, and other long-term positive outcomes. We know that from ages 0 to 5, we have a lot of brain activity happening, right? And so the more we nurture our social and emotional development, the more impactful it'll be throughout our entire life. Positive social and emotional development carries important benefits for all children, but particular for children from low-income families and young children with developmental delays or disabilities who may start school behind their peers, right? It's important for all children, but there are certain children benefit a little bit more from these skills. Do we have any questions, any comments, any thoughts at the moment? All right, we're going to continue. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we can expect, right, in terms of social emotional development from birth to 5 years old. From birth to 12 months, we're seeing our kiddos speaking with babbles and gurgles. They're responding to smiles and cooing from their caregivers. Our babies enjoy simple games like peekaboo or this little piggy. They're able to respond to his or her name, and they're learning what to expect from the world through how they are treated, right? So if we are responsive, they know that the environment that they are surrounded by is a responsive and caring environment, right? At this age, we also begin to imitate movements and expressions and play of others, right? We're learning through imitation and through mirroring what other people are doing. From 12 to 24 months, we want to do things more independently, like dressing ourselves, brushing our teeth, and we become easily frustrated when we cannot do it, right? We have difficulty sharing toys and we may seem possessive. We still haven't learned how to share, right? So these are skills that we can begin to teach, but we don't begin to master again until we're about 3.5, 4 years old. Play occurs side by side, but not with peers, also known as parallel play, right? We have temper tantrums, and the no's are very frequent at this age. We're trying to assert ourselves. We're trying to assert our autonomy in the world, right? We view ourselves as the center of the world, and we're not able to see things from other people's perspective, right? And so, for instance, if we say something like, oh, that hurts my heart, what you just did. Well, the kiddo doesn't have any comprehension of what hurting your heart is, right? So that's ineffective in terms of regulating or trying to change a behavior at this age. We're increasingly self-aware. We begin to express new emotions such as jealousy, affection, pride, and shame. And at every age, right? But particular when kids are starting to differentiate between emotions, it's always important for us to give those different emotions names as well, right? Differentiating between sad and frustrated or angry, right? So that again, as they begin to develop these skills and these abilities, they know what to name the feeling, the emotion, to better be able to tame it, right? Name it to tame it is what they say. All right, let's move on. So what can we expect at 24 to 36 months? This is when interactive play with peers begins. We copy other people's words and actions, and we may try to start comforting peers in the same way that we've been comforted, right? If one of our friends falls in the playground, we try to go pick them up, right? And again, that's why it's also so important when we are teaching our kids to also model empathy for them, right? If we're hurt, we ask, are you okay? How can I help you? Can I help you with your boo-boo? Things like that, right? Because then they learn that they can do this for their peers as well. Explosion and pretend or make believe happens here. We may pretend to be animals in the forest. We may pretend to even have, like this is when we also start seeing the imaginary friends come to fruition, right? When we're getting closer to 3 years old, they may start telling you that their friend is here to play with them, right? That's very normal at this age. We begin to see defiant behavior. And again, this is a part of our children trying to assert themselves in the world, right? Trying to gain some autonomy. We cannot remember rules, but we can remember routines at this age, right? That's very important. One way that we can help our kiddos with remembering routines is through visuals, right? Particularly at an early age, we are very visual. We're very visual learners, especially at this age range, right? When we're younger, maybe 24 months, we may still be a little too young for those visuals, But once we begin turning 3 years old, we make those connections with the visuals a little bit more or more clearly. And so if we're having trouble with maybe a nighttime routine, a recommendation is always pair your words with a visual card, a picture of your child maybe brushing their teeth to help them with these transitions. At this age, we also see that we have frequent mood changes that signal that our children are trying to take control of their impulses, their feelings, and their actions, right? And again, it's important for us to allow for these feelings to exist, for these feelings to come out, but also give them ways in which we can control these feelings. Let's say, for instance, like we're smelling a flower, we're blowing out a candle, or some of our kiddos may want to listen to some music or read a book, right? So expression of all of our feelings is a-okay, and also regulating those big feelings is what comes after that expression. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Not so far. These are all super helpful reminders, especially as we think about the upcoming Mental Health Awareness Month and just remembering that children have not mastered, regulating all of these emotions. And so it's important to model and continue to support them in this.
Absolutely. And I mean, I say this jokingly, but us as adults sometimes lack in that mastery, right? And so um, I like to say this to parents because sometimes we want our 4-year-old to be, at a certain level in terms of their ability to self-regulate. But then I look, at some of our adults and I'm like, well, we still need help with that. So we can't expect our 4-year-old to be at mastery if we're still working on it, right? Um, but yes, absolutely. When we're at 3 and 4 years old, we may start to tattle if they feel like they've been wronged by another child. I don't know if parents, you can relate to this. But absolutely. And this is helpful when we're trying to teach them new skills in the classroom. We're trying to set boundaries, we're trying to set rules in the classroom, right? The tattling is helpful because then we can go and say to our friend, okay, well, Johnny, you're telling me that so and so hit your friend Sarah. Go tell him that that's not okay. Go tell him that we use gentle touches, right? So again, being able to use all of these opportunities for some learning. We enjoy playing in small groups and we use a lot of imaginative play during this time. And we learn to share and take turns, but it may not always be easy for us, right? One of the ways in which we help with this skill in the classroom, and one strategy that we provide to our parents is if we're doing an activity at home, let's say we are all coloring a, we try to have maybe 2 markers out and we all take turns using the markers, right? Because it's showing us to wait for our turn, to be patient, and to take turns, right? And this is also something that's modeled in the classroom. So again, building on these skills, we begin to understand rules at home and at school. We begin to practice conflict resolution and problem solving. And here is also where our caregivers play a big part in us learning as children and the children learning how to resolve conflict, right? By modeling for them and not necessarily solving the conflict for them. Another example, somebody wants another child to share a piece of chalk with them, right? So we say, okay, go talk to him, go talk to her and say, hey, can you share with me? And he can say, yes, I will share with you. Or he may say, no, I'm not ready. And that's okay. And then we take the child over to their friend, they practice the script. And then if the other child isn't ready to share and says, I'm not ready, then we remind our friend, hey, we said that that could happen, right? And it's okay. You can wait a few more minutes for your turn, right? Um, And again, us always being able to give them those words when they're beginning to learn about conflict resolution and problem solving, so that eventually they don't need our assistance as much, right? At this age, we begin to show empathy when another person is hurt or upset, and may even try to comfort them. We start to understand emotions, and not only our own emotions, but the emotions of others. Our children may use simple expressions such as, I'm mad, I'm sad, or I'm happy, to let us know how they feel. Again, a way to promote their emotional literacy is through book reading. And we can take any book and talk about the faces. Look at what do you think they were feeling when they were in the park and describing what's going on in the book, right? Oh, I think they were feeling sad. And why do you think they may have been feeling sad? What makes you sad sometimes? Um, and creating our own stories within the books that we read to our kiddos, right? Any questions or comments? All right. So now we go to our 4 and 5-year-olds. At this age, adult approval is very important, right? I like to also make comment to um, when our children ask for our approval, it's also important to emphasize their how do I say this? Their ability to get something done without our approval being their reward, if that makes sense. So for instance, if we were coloring and we bring you, I made a flower, I used all these colors. Then what we as parents can do, as caregivers can do, oh, I see that you use the color yellow and you use purple. You describe everything that you see in the picture and you say, you did it. You did that on your own, right? So then again, it reinforces their ability to do things. And it's not that they're doing things to make us proud or for our approval, right? And so that also helps with their self-esteem. Hey, you're right. I did that on my own. I did that all by myself. It's just a little nugget.
Absolutely. It's such a hard habit to break too, right? When I think when I try not to say good job all the time, to my own daughter, I realize how much I say it. And so trying to be more specific with praise, and encouraging and just noting what the child did on their own, or what they should feel proud of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At this age, our attention span also starts to increase. We should be able to focus long enough to understand directions or read a short story. At this age, we're beginning to understand maybe 2 to 3 step directions, right? And some of our kiddos have the capacity for a bit more, but at least 2 to 3 step directions we're able to follow at this age. And have, you know, our attention span in 5 to 10 minutes at this age as well. We have more established friendships and may even have a friend at this age. And we also start to recognize and have interest in sexuality and between genders. Is different and every preference is different, but I always try to emphasize the importance of naming our body parts, what they are, right? And there are books that talk about that as well. So some of our parents are struggling with how to integrate that into your daily routine, then books are also a way that we can do that. At this age, we become more focused on winning when playing games, and we may become upset when we don't win, right? And so again, an important opportunity for learning, for developing the skill. We validate. I understand that it makes you very sad that you didn't win this game, but hey, you know what? you don't want to try again, it's all right. You can go sit and cool down, and then you can come back and try to play the game again in a few minutes. Um, but again, all important lessons. We're gonna move on. I'm clicking next, but it's not going. I
Looks like,
wonder.
yeah, might be
Am I
delayed for just a
frozen?
minute. Your video's working fine.
Okay, let me.
So it could just be the slide. Do you want to close out of it and
There
oh,
we
there it
go.
goes.
All right. So, how does knowing our social emotional milestones help us build supportive relationships and promote the emotional development of our kiddos? Any thoughts? All right. So I'm gonna bring it back to research, right? Some research indicates that our caregivers, our families, um, sometimes have a greater awareness of where our kiddos should be cognitively, but not so much awareness of where they should be in terms of their social emotional skills. And again, we know that them being on par, or them developing their social and emotional skills first is what leads to them being able to cognitively develop as well. And so that's why it's important for us to be able to know what is, social and emotionally, what is he or she supposed to be doing at this age? Where is he or she supposed to be, right? This also helps us create realistic expectations of behavior, and in turn decreases the amount of frustration we may feel with behaviors that are appropriate with their age. For instance, as I was mentioning earlier, sharing and taking turns, that skill does not develop until we're about 3.5, 4 years old. But some people believe that we should have this skill already developed at about 2 years of age, right? And this comes from a 0 to 3 National Parent Survey data. Also, impulse control, right? Our ability, or our kiddos' ability to resist the desire to do something. That again doesn't begin to develop until they're 3 and when they're much younger, right? So again, we as parents have to set expectations that are appropriate for their age at that time, right? Um, Also, again, our capacity to control our emotions, we don't begin to develop this until we're about 3.5, 4 years old. But there are parents who believe that kiddos have this capacity at about 1 or 2 years old. And again, this serves to help us um, set expectations that are realistic based on their social emotional developmental stage. Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts coming up for you all? Um, you can say it out loud or put it in the chat. No? All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And so these are social emotional skills that our kiddos need as they enter school. They need confidence, the capacity to develop good relationships with their peers and with adults, concentration and persistence on challenging tasks in particular, ability to solve social problems, ability to listen to instructions and be attentive, and ability to effectively communicate emotions. We know if we have these skills, um, if we've begun to develop these skills in early childhood, our kiddos' ability to thrive um, from K through 12 increases exponentially, right? If they're able to be little regulated bodies, their ability to thrive, it again increases exponentially. So, how do we get there? We're going to talk a little bit about that. So, again, forming relationships, that's one of the key things, right? Our ability to form relationships with a caring adult is what sets these things in motions, right? If we're able to express emotions, self-regulate, explore from a place of security, develop emotional literacy, we know that we can become empathetic adults. We can manage our emotions, be emotional literate. We can follow directions. We can learn to be persistent, make friends, develop relationships, and feel confident and competent.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were speaking about these skills, it reminded me that so often when parents are getting ready to transition their children into pre-K, they say, "What do I need to do to make sure that they're ready for pre-K, or what should we be working on?" And it's really these social emotional skills, right? That if children have begun practicing these and practicing, having confidence and self-regulation and problem solving, then all of the academic stuff will come. But these are really these foundational skills.
Absolutely, yes. And actually, I think the first quarter of the pre-K programming is focused on this, right? Social emotional development, learning again, um, how to how to be a friend, how to take turns, how to share things like that. So yes, absolutely. That is the best thing we can do for our little ones. So what can I do to support the social emotional development in my infant? We can get to know what our baby's likes and dislikes are to their cries and through their smiles. We can find again delight in the baby's discoveries, right? You found me. We can talk about the world around them, help them understand, right? The more we talk, the more we engage, the more their little brain is activated, right? We can show affection and responsiveness to our baby's requests for comfort, nurturing, feedings, and schedule, right? Our baby will let us know what they need and when they need it, right? We just have to be paying attention. We can focus on safety and security through helping them stay soothed. And this is very important, right? There's no such thing as behavior management or spoiling infants, right? If our baby cries, that is a call for help. And so what do? We nurture, right? How do we support our social emotional development or the social emotional development in our toddlers? We establish routines and transitions. We provide lots of playing time in groups with peers. We play games that teach turn taking. I know I talked a little bit about this earlier, but another thing that we can do is maybe if we have a puzzle, we each take a turn putting one of the puzzle pieces down, right? We let our children make lots of little choices about the day to give them a sense of control and a sense of self, a sense of autonomy, right? Do you want to wear your blue shoes today or do you want to wear your red shoes today? Do you want the pink coat or the red coat? What would you like to eat for your snack? Do you want strawberries or grapes, right? We don't ask, what would you like to eat for your snack? Because they may say Oreos and we may not have Oreos at the house, right? But they can decide between two choices for sure. We can use puppets or storytelling to join our children's process of play and encourage exploring of positive and negative feelings. We can also create puppets with them, right? And we can create a puppet that is happy. We can create a puppet that is sad, or we can create we sometimes we in the classrooms that I work with, we use we make our puppets with plates, right? And There's a happy one, there's a sad one, there's an excited one. It's helpful when the kids create their own puppets and name the feeling that that puppet is exhibiting or showing, because it makes it more relatable to them. We can observe at this age. Children will tell us what they feel and think through their play. Unstructured. For instance, if our kiddos go through a big change, right? A new baby comes into the picture, or we have a big move, it's important for us to have opportunities of free play with them so that they can express what they're feeling if they're not able to use their words to say what they're feeling at the moment, or they haven't produced or developed that language yet. At this age, it's helpful to talk about rules and limits in language that they understand. Hitting hurts. We keep our friends safe. If you're mad, you can stop your feet or come ask for help. Keep commands and directions simple with a calm tone of voice. Always remembering that the way that we approach our kiddos is what's going to dictate how they react, right? And so if we approach in a calm voice, then we then set that tone, right? But if we come into the room screaming or yelling, then we know that that mood is going to be elevated, right? So sometimes we as parents have to smell the flower and blow out the candle a few times before engaging in a conversation or before engaging in some regulation with our kiddos, right? We have to be regulated ourselves so that our kiddos can then be regulated as well. Any questions, comments, or thoughts? No? All right, moving on to our preschoolers. Telling simple jokes and riddles, the sillier the better. Um, at this age, we can encourage our children to do small tasks in the classroom or at home and offer lots of praise and attention when this is completed. Again, you did that all by yourself. Oh my goodness, you were able to put on your jacket and zip it up? Goodness, you have strong muscles. Make sure our child has plenty of quiet and alone time if needed. This is a very social time, and children start to learn how much socializing feels good to them before they burn out, right? Sometimes it's important that we create, just like for ourselves as adults, our cozy corner or our cozy spaces. Our kiddos need that too, right? To help them self-regulate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. At this age, we can help them by exploring roles of characters in books to help them understand what's right and wrong and think critically about morals in friendships, family, and community. Um, a shameless plug to Daniel Tiger, who focuses a lot on social emotional regulation. He's one of my go-tos when I am engaging with parents. And so if you want to check Daniel Tiger out, I would he's a great resource um, to explore friendships and difference between right and wrong and how to self-regulate as well. We love that show, somebody says. Thank you for sharing. All right, we're gonna move on.
A bit slow again.
Yeah, I sometimes need to give it some time to think, and then I don't want to keep clicking because then it just goes crazy on me.
I know.
There we go. So how do I support, excuse me, how do we support friendship skills? We encourage children to work together. Give me a second. We provide opportunities for playing together. We model appropriate friendship skills in interaction with children and other adults. We model saying please and thank you. Look and gently touch those you love. So we use soft, gentle touches. We show children how to listen by making eye contact and nodding our head, right? And when we are trying to get a child's attention and they're not being responsive, sometimes it's not because they don't want to be responsive, it's because they really are so in tune to what they're doing, to their play, that they can't even hear us, right? So the approach that we need to take as adults is making sure that we have eye contact, we have that visual connection, so that then we can redirect whatever behavior we're seeing, right? It's always important to make that eye contact so that we know that they are able to, or they are listening to us, right? Because sometimes it's not that they're not listening, is that they're so in tune with what they're doing. Oops. See, something else just happened here. What are you seeing now?
Can still see your screen. It just clicked back out from the full slide view to seeing the slides along the side.
Okay, so let me go ahead and go back to our friendship skills. Current slide. Here we go. All right. What can I do to support learning through play? We know that playing with our children is one of the most important, if not the most important, ways to support a child and show them that they are loved, seen, and heard, right? Through play, a child becomes capable of regulating positive and negative emotions. And we know that it can be structured, which is parent-led, or unstructured, which is child-led, right? So what do we mean by unstructured? Child-led, the child, if we're playing with blocks or with playing with Legos, then he or she is putting the pieces down first, right? And then we're just copying what they're doing. Same with painting or drawing, right? They do a line, we do this line the exact same way, right? And sometimes, again, it's if we're trying to teach another skill like sharing and taking turns, it may be a little more structured. I'll put the first puzzle piece and you put the second puzzle piece. I put the third, you put the fourth. Um, Now a moment of interaction. If you all would like to share in the chat or are loud, what are some of your favorite memories of play? And it can be in childhood or in adulthood. What are some of your favorite memories?
Hopefully we get some brave folks to unmute or put in the chat. I know a couple of the folks that I see who joined us tonight are early educators, so I'm sure you have lots of good examples of favorite games or memories of play that you have with the kiddos you work with. Would say personally, I've always considered myself an infant toddler person, and so I really love playing with little ones. But as my daughter has gotten older and her play has evolved, it's still very fun. And so now she's into more elaborate, playful games like playing, hair salon or that sort of thing.
Thank you for sharing, Drew.
Absolutely. Anyone else in the chat? Anyone like to unmute? If not, that's okay. It's a long day.
Yeah, I always like to ask this question, not only of our educators, but of our parents as well, because we all come from such diverse backgrounds that there are games that I have never been exposed to that some of our families practice at home, and it's just such good awareness. And so then when we incorporate them in the classroom or at the schools that I work with, the kids are surprised that we know what's going on at home. I'll say it that way, right? So it's always neat to hear from parents what are some of the memories of play for them, because again, it's varied based on where we grew up, how we grew up.
Absolutely. I always think it's interesting too, watching children now as an adult engage in like big body play or like roughhousing or wrestling. And sometimes it can make us a little bit nervous, what I'm thinking, don't hurt yourself. But I definitely remember that, as a kid, especially having brothers and stuff, we roughhouse a lot. So an
Right.
important stage.
Yeah. And their bodies are way more limber at an early age. What can I do to support responding to distress, right? The first thing we do is acknowledge. We acknowledge, I see you. I see you. This works with adults as well, by the way. I see you're angry. I see you're upset, right? We offer comfort. Would you like a hug? Would you like some time alone? Would you like for me to sit next to you? We offer them the words that they can use to express what they're feeling, right? I see your face. I see you have a frown. Are you sad? Because sometimes that frown is sad, and they're like, no, I'm mad. I'm like, oh, okay, you're mad. Thank you for sharing that with me. And it's so, again, kids will know what they're feeling. And so it's also important to ask what's going on, right? Giving them um again, providing them choices and following through with those choices, right? Which is why it's important that we give them choices that are acceptable for us as well in the moment, right? So, for instance, if we know that pizza is not an option for dinner, then the choices that we have for them are, do you want, whatever is acceptable for that day, right? Because again, if we don't provide choices, then it's a free for all, right? And that can lead to a meltdown, a tantrum, or just discontent, right? Because we as parents weren't clear about what was available to our kiddos. Um, Coping strategies, problem solving strategies, again, our breathing exercises, our mindfulness moments. Um, there is such a I don't know, I don't have my calm down jar in front of me, I'm sorry. But you can basically create what's called a calm down jar for with, not for, with your kiddos. You can put 3/4 of clear dish soap, 1/4 of water in a plastic bottle. You can fill it with beads or glitter. And what we do with these bottles is we shake them, shake them, shake them when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're mad. And then what helps us calm our bodies is watching the glitter or watching the pebbles or whatever they decide to put in their calm down jar go from the top to the bottom. And again, it gives them a visual, it gives them something to focus on to calm their little bodies, right? Another thing that may be helpful when we're in a state of distress is a little stretch, right? Or maybe drinking some water. We can have a basket in our living room or in a space that everybody has access to with some newspapers. And when we're angry, we can just tear the newspaper, tear the newspaper. I see you're angry. I see you need to get that energy out. You can tear, it's okay to tear the paper. It's not okay to hit your sister, right? Again, giving them choices to problem solve. And then, as I had mentioned, creating a safe space or a cozy corner in our home, right? That has maybe some emotional literacy books that we can rent that we can check out at the public library, that we can borrow from our school, maybe having some plushies there, a nice soft pillow, something that we can smell, like we can put cotton balls in a plastic bottle again or a little jar, poke some holes in the jar, and that's maybe lavender scent, eucalyptus, lemongrass, and again it helps us decompress. We take a little breath, it smells nice, and our breathing helps us regulate. Any questions about what I just shared?
I think those are
Go ahead.
really great strategies that you shared as well, and definitely things that I feel like a lot of us would be able to do at home.
Absolutely, yes. We can be creative even with limited resources. We don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. One other thing that I will share with you is sometimes when our kiddos have a lot of energy and need help calming their bodies, some sometimes what's helpful is what's called compression touch, which is basically like, we just do little squeezes on their arms, little squeezes on their hands, but also we can create a bag or fill a bag with sand, and put it in a pillowcase, maybe 3, 5 pounds, depending on how big or small your kiddo is. And maybe when they need them, when we see that they need to calm their body, we can say, "Oh, hey, I see that you have a lot of energy. Do you want to use your do you want to use your sandbag? Do you want to put it on your legs, or do you want to lay down and I'll put it on your back?" And again, this helps them calm their body when they're feeling a bit distressed. And if you all need, if there are specific um, situations that you are experiencing that you want to share out and would like strategies on, please feel free to share. We're gonna move on. I did the same thing again. But I am at the end of my slide deck. Okay. Um, I think now we open it up for questions, Drew, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, take a little bit of time to answer any questions that folks joining us might have, whether that's, from a parent perspective or as an early educator perspective. But now is a great time to share any specific challenges or, situations that you're experiencing while we have some expertise available. Um, One of the parents who is joining entered into the registration form how to handle tantrums in public when you might not have all of those, your resources that you would typically find at home available on you. So any like in the moment strategies for when you're at the grocery store, or you're, in the line somewhere and you might not have the jar to watch the glitter or the calm down corner.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that I do like to mention to our parents is being prepared. But what I mean by being prepared ahead of time is by teaching them these skills ahead of time, not when we're having a tantrum, right? So, for instance, if we choose to incorporate smell the flower, blow out the candle into our toolbox, our self-regulation toolbox, then this is a strategy that we can practice maybe one Sunday afternoon at home, or maybe we can do it at bath time every night, right? Hey, let's practice smelling our flower and blowing out the candle. We could also pretend we're blowing up a balloon. We blow and then we let it out, right? So that way, when we're at the grocery store and we're having this episode, we can say, "Hey, remember, Charlie, what we do at home when our body is not when our body is feeling heavy or when we're feeling angry, we can smell our flower, we can blow out our candle, right?" And also setting that expectation even before we go into the grocery store. Remember, when we're at the grocery store, we do XYZ, whatever that expectation is for you, mom, dad, right? And then you also set up what the alternative is if that expectation is not followed. If we don't follow XYZ, then we're going to have to we're going to have to leave the store and get in the car. Of course, if that's the expectation that you set, that's what we have to follow through with. If Saturday morning is the only time that you can go to the grocery store, then maybe leaving the grocery store is not an option for our family, right? And so then you have to create a plan that works for your family, right? I think that's the main takeaway. Um, say what you mean what you say, and follow through.
Yeah.
This is the template that you're creating for your kiddos, right? And set it up beforehand. If you already know that we're prone to that tantrum on Saturday morning, so come up with the strategies beforehand, and then remind them as we're going to the store, remind them as we're entering the store, remind them when we're in the store, and if the tantrum happens, then follow through with whatever you've already set up for them, mom or dad. And if you all want to get a little bit more specific, we can have a sidebar conversation about it as well.
Absolutely. And then one other question I wanted to ask is, somebody had mentioned in the registration forms that oftentimes like pick up and drop off at daycare create a lot of strong emotions for their child. And so, when they're dropping off in the morning, it's, a clinginess and, throwing a fit that they don't want to be there. But then when the parent comes back at the end of the day, then the child doesn't want to leave. And so just any tips that you have about navigating those big transitions and the feelings that come along with them.
Absolutely. Yes. So drop off and pick up are definitely big transition or big emotional times for our kiddos, right? And so one thing that we can do at home is we can create a visual board for our kiddo. And it is always helpful when they're included in the visual, when they're included in the picture. So take a few pictures with your phone of your kiddo, maybe brushing their teeth, whatever their morning routine looks like. And then they can carry that board to school with them, right? And so once the board is typically two-sided, right? Once we've completed a task, we move it to the other side with either Velcro or magnetic strips, whatever you want to use, right? I hope I'm painting an okay visual for you. But once we complete the task, we move it over, complete the task, move it over. The last task that I would suggest for our morning drop-off transition is what we call an I love you ritual, which stays the same every day. And you decide again what that'll look like for you, family. But you can do something as simple as you give your child your heart and they hold it in their pocket for the whole day, and you make sure they put it in their pocket, and my heart is with you the whole day. And if you need to take it out, remember, you can take it out and look at my heart. But we're going to keep it in our pocket for the day. And you give them a big hug, and that's the end of your transition. We try to emphasize not to linger, even if our kiddos are crying, because they know that you will be back. And you as parents know you'll be back at the end of the day to pick them up as well. But yeah, I think the closer to that ritual is, or to that transition that's helpful, that we've seen as helpful, is having a little, what we call an I love you ritual. And I can send you through a list of I love you rituals that we can incorporate as part of transitions.
That would be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will definitely include those in our next Ready for Pre-K newsletter. And for any folks who are still on, I put the link to our attendee survey on the chat. And I know that Brenda also has an attendee survey up here to fill out that information. But any follow-up resources that Brenda shares will include in the newsletter. And for you all too, if you have any additional questions or you think of something after the session, you can always email us and reach out. Let's see. And before we go this evening, if there's any last questions, I was going to share, let's see, share our screen so that I can pull up our final two slides for you.
Are you able to
Our
share screen even though I'm on? Oh,
I
you
think
are.
so. Yep, I think we got it. And so just as a reminder to all of the families who are out there, if you ever have questions about your child's learning or development, or have any concerns, that you can always reach out to Birth to Three, to Strong Start for ages birth to 3. And that contact information is up there. Ages 3 to 5, you can reach out to Early Stages, which is a DCPS program. And then, of course, your child's pediatrician at any age. Brenda, you're welcome to share any contact information for Healthy Futures in the chat as well. And then finally, as we close out tonight's session this evening, I just want to say, Brenda, thank you so much for sharing your time this evening and your expertise. Really appreciated all of those tips and actionable items that you shared. And don't forget to take our attendee survey, because you'll be registered to win a bundle of children's books that will get mailed to your home. And with that, I think we'll call it a night. So
Great. I did put my information